Go on, is it?
Yeah,
Is it?
as long
It's
as
just me,
nobody
isn't it?
finds out. It's like before we go live, I've just got to tell you, oh, we're live. Oh.
No. Well, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised, and I think you should get a wheelbarrow full of them. But why is AliExpress sucked then? Have they not delivered you anything?
Oh, no, they delivered me heaps, but it's amazing. The stuff you can buy on AliExpress, it's fantastic, but very little of it actually works the way it's supposed to. Most of it's not really very well documented. And when it is documented, the instructions and the documentation is wrong. So it's like a giant puzzle. It's so much fun getting stuff and then realizing I have to reverse engineer this before I can even think about using it. Fantastic.
I've never got anything from AliExpress. It's always been Banggood and GearBest for me. I'm assuming they're about the same, aren't they?
Yeah, pretty much. There's there's an awful lot of more electronic stuff on AliExpress, though.
Yeah, funny enough. While I wait, hopefully somebody's coming along that should be coming along. I've got this thing out because I fancy having another go at this, and I could not remember what this was. I bought this. Yeah, I bought this for my.
You're getting old, Gary. If you can't remember that sort of thing, geez.
my 20-year-old, but I still got no idea what it was. And then eventually I found out. So then well, why don't you Google it as you do these things, don't you? And this is where I should actually have this set up. But blow me down if the thing that didn't pop up was my very own post in RC Groups back in 2016. So I was like, gee. Back in the olden days, yes. So I better find out. It had a thing called Clean Flight on it. What on earth would that mean?
Clean Flight configurator is what you need. I need a copy of that too because I've got heaps of quads on Clean Flight, and they flew really well. I can't tell the difference, to be honest. They were close to the same.
What would the control have been on this?
What do you mean the control?
Well, what would the controller? What sort of sideboard did he start this? Dan knew. My lad used to fly this around all the time.
Yeah,
and he'd be really good with it. Oh, it's got one of my favorites. Those FR Sky D4Rs, aren't they, or something like that?
Something like that. Yeah. Probably running PWM, is it?
Yeah. Of course. Of course. It feels it's nice, a warmer feeling. I feel like valves, not
like an old shirt with the holes in it. That my wife keeps threatening to throw out. They just get comfortable, holes in the right places and frayed bits. And your wife says, "Dad, you can't wear that." They don't understand. Women don't understand. What about the look? What about the feel?
Isn't it funny? Maybe it's just a Southern Hemisphere thing. Maybe that doesn't happen in the Northern Hemisphere, but that definitely happens here as well. And every time I've got really nice pairs of shorts that are completely full of holes, and apparently I'm not allowed to wear them out. And things, we'll not wear them out.
Are you allowed to
outside?
Pee standing up? Does your wife pee standing up? Do you have to sit down?
I'm walking around with it and disappearing. Sometimes. MTV now. What's MTV? How much of the 100 million grant is going to? No, I will try and find out.
Isn't the big topic of the day the fact that quadcopter doesn't fly? No, sorry, that drone doesn't fly anymore. That famous drone, has stopped flying.
The one in space. Hello, chaps.
The one on Mars.
The one on Mars, well, yes, it has stopped flying, but my word, didn't it do well? Bobby's in fact, hello, Bobby. Bobby's just the man. He might actually know the answer to that question. This is right in his.
What was the question?
Did anyone know? You might be able to see it on the screen. I don't know how much of the 100 million has gone out in grant money, and which US companies drone infrastructure inspection grant act? HR 53015.
So I can tell you.
You can tell us.
There's not very many companies who've taken advantage of that grant. You can imagine there's like pretty narrow scope because some of it's based on critical infrastructure. There's probably like the companies who would take advantage of that grant, I would think, are like some of the software and hardware related drone service providers like Pix4D. I mean, I can even see Skydio maybe getting some of that money through some of their inspection software and whatnot. Companies like Thread and others, I could see taking advantage of it. To be honest with you, though, like I think we would hear about it, right? Everybody would be
Yes.
from the mountaintops. We got this contract, etc. Or it could just be that money could have just been broken up into a lot of much smaller bites. I haven't heard of anything, to be honest with you.
I'm googling it right now, and I can't remember posting any of that. Yeah, 2021. No, nothing much is coming up. I will look. I will ask around. I will look. But if Bobby doesn't know, then
No,
then
there's a lot I don't know. There's a lot I don't
then
know.
I won't know.
Ask Patrick
So
Egan how much I don't know.
yeah, absolutely. And hello, EC Stealth Tax 2020. Oh, all right. Yeah, we'll put let's put a. Oh, Bobby, do you happen to have that thing with you?
Yeah, it's right here.
Bobby has a thing. Oh, it's a big box. Oh, it's a lot bigger than I thought it was.
It's about in between a Mavic and an M30 or a Evo 4T Max. I have one. I can probably show you side by side proportions. This is the ACSL Soten. There's a few things about it you'll notice. So it's made in Japan, and I don't know if you can see here in the shitty iPad camera. It says Yamaha motor design here on the arm. So the product is
actually, sorry, say that again. Yamaha motor design.
Yamaha motor design. So
that's won me over already. I like it.
There's a consortium, my understanding, of large industrial Japanese companies who've invested in the development of this technology, including Yamaha. And when you see, like, I know you probably can't tell from the shitty camera, but like the texture of the plastics reminds me kind of like an old school Game Boy. It's more like a power tool. Like it
looks very shiny. It looks very, very shiny.
It's a little not super reflective. I don't know if you can notice here in the arms. Like these are super burly. Like, and you can see like the way it clicks. Like there's a level of quality. There's very little tension in the arms, and it goes back. Like this is and even the gimbal, for example. I don't know if this is the camera cover, which is infuriating. But if you look back here, some of the gimbal motors, like these are beefy gimbal motors. The aircraft has forward-facing top and bottom obstacle avoidance. Doesn't have rearward-facing obstacle avoidance.
It looks quite heavy.
I haven't weighed it yet, actually. I haven't weighed it yet. I'll be sure to weigh it. I've only flown it once at altitude. Like I think we're at 7,700 feet above sea level. So, and I got over 20 minutes of like just under 25 minutes of flight time. It actually it's remarkably stable. It has I'll put this down.
See, that sounded heavy.
Yeah, the controller I got is this one. It's not the smart controller, but the controller itself is extremely robust. And I've mentioned this earlier.
On the back.
Yeah. So it has these two scroll wheels. There's like this cultural Japanese thing called ikigai, which is like based on the practice of like hyper mindfulness. You see that with sushi, their cuisine, and a lot of like their automotive development. The same applies here. So you'll notice there's like a dedicated switch for collision avoidance, which
make a big screen.
You'll see that there's also a dedicated switch for emergency stop. Of the
I made a big screen because that'll make
wonderful.
The details bigger.
Yeah. So let me turn, and then so you see there's dedicated buttons for home, but also land in place. It has a really nice, welcoming startup tone. It tells you hello.
Does it come with games you can play as well?
I can't see the screen. It does not.
Like all Chinese gear.
The camera's a little washed out here, but you'll see there's like some telemetry options, like battery. Here we go. That's focusing.
Oh yeah.
Battery, satellites, etc. And in the bottom, right over here, you see kind of the obstacle avoidance of the drone in real time, which is also helpful. And then in the top right, you'll see kind of it'll show you the drone battery once it's connected. It also shows you the controller battery. And then you have also the other telemetry here, like the speed and vertical, other types of, and it actually has a little mode switch that says idle, hovering, or max, kind of depending on what its speed is.
Is that easy you've flown it the once? Is that easy to read or is it too tiny?
So this is easy to read, but actually this is meant to hold a supplementary device. So it has like a DJI-esque experience.
Sure. Yeah.
If we talk about limitations, or you want to talk about best stuff first?
You fire away. I will put you back to normal.
So
fire away.
I don't know. Always talk about the bad stuff first, and let's talk about the good stuff, just because it's
Okay.
the good stuff outweighs the bad. The bad stuff is right now there's no iOS support, and that's the case for other types of stuff. So that limited device support isn't exactly great, but it can change, right? And I know ACSL is actually currently increasing the number of devices that it does support. As for like some of the ergonomics here, in my own opinion, Western users are a little bit more rushed, hurried. Maybe I'll even dare say sloppy. This emergency kill button probably should have a cover on it, so someone doesn't accidentally.
Oh yeah. Have you got to hold it down for a while, or is it a tap?
You hold down for 2 seconds, I believe, and then
2 seconds, okay.
Which is, as you can imagine, not enough. The dedicated land in place versus at home, like this, these are small nitpicks, and then there's kind of the app part, which you'll realize, like, first of all, the app could change, and I know they're actually spending a bunch of resources to do that. So I don't think it's fair to kind of pick on the app, but within the app itself, and I'll share, post some screenshots. There's like a few things that I think for Western users we wouldn't really appreciate or understand. Like there's 3 radio link bars, for example, one for telemetry, one for RC, and one for video, and there's reasons why you want to unify those and other types of things. On the aircraft itself, so having obstacle avoidance and also top and bottom is brilliant, but not having it in the rear, in my opinion, a slight oversight. I don't think this is a game changer, or like, it's a deal breaker for most operators. But when you just see kind of like, these are actual like cameras they've put here, and at the bottom as well as there's LEDs and there's optical flow sensors and a rangefinder. But it begs the question of, why didn't you put them back here too? It has an NVIDIA Jetson, I think, a Xavier on board, so it's got some processing power, and actually they're barely scratching the surface of what they've got. I believe they're actually looking at exploring like opening this up from like an SDK perspective, so that drone deploy Pix4, a lot of these like apps will be supported. Something that I think is really stand out about the product, and I'll show you this because I got all of the arms, is it's the only drone in its class that is able to have payloads removed toollessly. And I'll move this arm in here. Silly iPad. There's this little button. I don't know if you can see this. There we go.
Yeah.
Push this, and then the whole thing slides out. And they have a number of different other types of payloads as well that they offer and develop. Oh, also the micro SD card is on the payload itself, and this is important when it comes to security, right? And I've made posts about that, maybe jeering other companies about their concerns about Chinese drones when there's security problems already. This mechanical, you'll see this. It's so satisfying to kind of clip in. I should have just extended the damn arm.
Because you're going to be being videoed, it is now going to be twice as hard as it normally would be.
Yeah.
Excuse me, what was that?
Because you're talking live, it'll be twice. You invariably be twice as hard as it should be to put anything back on it.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah,
The pressure. And then something I don't like, I'll tell you, is this gimbal cover, and I think they're going to change that as well, because it forces the camera to, like, the gimbal is not protected. The case is very elegantly designed. I know it's being updated for Western users to kind of support our more harsh and rugged, I think, operations.
Laissez-faire, you mean?
Yeah. But admittedly, when you feel this, and I hope you all get a chance to hold it at some point, and you go to the different trade shows, it's solid. It's not a tinny piece of plastic. It actually feels more solid than some of the DJI and Autel equivalents. Actually, the Skydio X10 is the only other drone I know that feels like a power tool. And everything from the injection molded plastics to like the tensioners. It's really,
do those rails on the top do anything?
Yes, so there is like an RTK module that is currently available in Japan.
Okay.
Not available in America yet. I think there's some certs, or maybe it's a translation of the app. I don't know exactly what it's coming to America this year.
And how does that RTK plug in? I see. Is it like Bluetooth or something to the main device? So I don't see a socket point or something to wire it in.
There is.
Or is that okay?
It's a good question. It's a very good question. I wonder actually. Oh no, here was what it is. You wire it in here to the USB-C, I bet. I bet
Oh,
you
okay.
because it
Okay.
mounts here, and then there's probably a very flush, form-fitting wire based on their aesthetic. The props are toolless. They are not folding props. This is again something that could easily change in a third-party manufacturer. Would probably be wise to make something because it as a result it doesn't fold very well based on the current props.
Shock me with the price.
9,300 US.
9,300.
Maybe just
And
under.
that's with the case. And how many batteries does it come with? Does it come with a Flymore kit?
I think, yeah, basically. I think that's for like the Flymore kit. And that's without the smart controller, which I haven't seen. And they have other payloads as well. Like, so, this is what's also, I should really kind of double click on this. It's a 3-axis stabilized gimbal, okay, with a 20 megapixel, 1-inch mechanical shutter. So the 3-axis gimbal, as you know, like is kind of elusive outside of China. Only Skydio's pulled that off. And this is like the real deal. They have another one that has optical zoom, and they have a thermal variant as well. I think, but they're swappable. And this type of like interchangeability, I think, is unique in the form factor. I've bemoaned some of these, like the M30. Everybody loves the M30. Doesn't have swappable payload. Autel Evo 4T. It's not trivial to swap between the N and the T. But this thing was, I mean, all right, let me redeem myself here because it's so much easier than it really looks. There you go. So yeah. It's like it's a much more fluid action. It's actually easier, I think, than mounting some of the DJI payloads where you have to line up the socket and click it in. They did a really good job. Wow. And something I wanted to answer, like James Earl and other folks have mentioned, I don't think it's fair to compare this to like a Chinese equivalent product. I think it's more fair to compare this to all the other NDAA platforms that are looking to compete with the Chinese products because it's unrealistic. I mean, I have a Mini 4 Pro, which flies farther and longer. Maybe not, may not take the same image quality, but it has all these other types of capabilities and rich integration. So that's
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's comments because I saw you put this up on LinkedIn earlier, and that's why I said, "Oh, come and tell us about it." There's James saying, "What's a direct competitor?" Not close to Mavic 3 Enterprise, but on its way, says Paul. It's the startups. We've gone through the startup team. More solid construction, I think you've probably said. There's the RTK. Brian's interested in what kind of telemetry is embedded.
I have to check the telemetry logs.
And
then no
more on the smart controller. Yeah, we've gone through everything there, so we can post this bit of video to the good folks of LinkedIn. Yeah, I mean that looks and that's quite competitive, isn't it, compared to the Skydio and stuff, price wise, isn't it?
So I look at the drone itself, and I look at it's half the price of the X10. I think the quotes I've seen for the X10.
That'd be quite competitive then.
For
has
sure.
Has it got any apps for mapping or anything from Japan?
Not yet.
Not yet.
And I think that's part of the things they're looking to do. And then admittedly, so it doesn't. The X10 is actually a phenomenal piece of equipment. Everybody's like, Bobby, why do you hate on Skydio? And no, I find it unfortunate that a company has to raise hundreds of millions of dollars to make a great product, but also it's really, I think, the go-to-market and regulatory capture that everybody is a little bit frustrated with Skydio with. For mapping inspection, this is great. I look at, if they don't make a thermal payload. I'll also mention that this is not meant for defense and never will be. It's like something very much against, I think, the company's perspective and their approach, which is why they're very keen on selling through specific value-added resellers. And I should also mention something. This piece of product is geo-locked, so they sell them. They're regionally locked, I think. So if I buy in the U.S., it's meant to only be in the U.S., and this is one of the things that is intentionally meant to prevent the misuse of the drones. And it's I think it also falls in line with a lot of Japanese companies in general, everywhere from Sony to the companies. Toyota having heartburn seeing the Hilux used without their permission in Warzone, etc. So it's I think it's quite compelling for what it is. And what's even more impressive though is that this is the first. There will be more products like this to come from ACSL to other companies, not just from Japan. out of Europe. There's this what was it, the new Kratworks thing I was talking about, the
Yeah.
Doge, whatever. That looks quite impressive. The price is extremely compelling. Stuff coming out of Vietnam, stuff like other places that are NDA compliant. And this is where I don't want to talk politics, but when we look at what the American Security Drone Act and maybe some of the things that AUVSI is unintentionally doing, is they're trying to defend the American drone industry, right? Well, these are all non-American drones that are NDA compliant, that actually can be sold to the same end customers that you're looking to, deter DJI from. And so it's like this product, the FreeFly Astro is a better mapping platform. It costs much more, and it uses the Sony A7R. It's much larger. It's a different beast, right? But for the price, this I think fits like this. Sorry, you were gonna ask something. My bad.
Yeah, so it's 20 megapixels mechanical shutter, correct?
Yes, 1-inch sensor, I believe.
Yeah, so can you set it to auto take a photograph every 2 seconds, for example?
Yes, you can do interval shots. I should have mentioned, so the buttons here in the controller, so currently they're like coded to a certain firmware, and I believe it's changing. This button here, you push partially, it takes a picture and an interval shot. You hold it down and it starts recording video. There's a few, like for example, this is your 3-position switch you saw with DJI, manual position hold, and then kind of auto in a guided mode. The app lets you fly a grid. And another thing that's interesting, I should tell you.
Oh, wow. But let's just fly a grid you there then.
Yeah,
but
that was what I was aiming for. So if it can take a shot every 2 seconds interval, as long as you fly reasonably steady at, say, I don't know, 8 miles an hour, 10 miles an hour, what's that, 4 meters a second, 5 meters a second, or something. If you fly at that speed without auto doing it, as long as you understand how to map, you actually don't need an app to map.
Yeah.
You can actually just fly it.
Very true.
Does the grid, Bobby, does the grid run a grid from your position, or is there a mission planning sort of a software to it?
There's both. There's a mission planning element.
Okay.
And it has multiple polygons, right? You can draw, and then it shows kind of the buffer and the overlap areas. I wish I could, part of the, I might have a dongle where I probably could have booted it and shared the screen with you. I don't have the technical setup probably right now. Something to mention that's different than all of the drones that ACSL warned me about. Like when you do a mapping mission, your start point and your waypoint, unlike every other drone basically in the world that climbs and then goes to that waypoint, it diagonally flies to that waypoint. And thank goodness thank goodness it's got obstacle avoidance. But basically, if you're going to be doing a mapping mission in an area, you want to drop just an extra point so that the drone, if it were to low light or something else, doesn't hit something. And again, these are all like things that can change in the software. And I think it goes back to that Japanese mindfulness where everything is done with real intent. And so when you set the waypoints, they don't realize that as Americans and maybe you folks in the other parts of the West,
us as well. Yeah,
time is money. So it's like you got to go hurry and do this job. You want to set it up and go. And this is where I think that there is room for improvement. The beautiful thing is that they're listening, and they're very receptive to the feedback. This is the first one of their drones that's come to America. They've got several of the drones there in Japan, and the quality of the product is actually really impressive. And my understanding is that they can manufacture these at very high volume, which is unique and I would say different than other offerings. I will concede that we still have a long way to go to catch up to China, but that's a different conversation. For what this is some of the best stuff we've seen, and I think it's just the first gen. Once we start seeing other drones come out, I mean, the stuff coming out of Europe is exceptional. The stuff coming out of other parts of the world is really impressive. I think it's just a matter of time before we hear about those other brands as well.
Here's my takeaway for this, though, is the way the payload can be swapped, because that is so rare. You have to have a big DJI aircraft to have a payload that's swappable. But if you can drop something like a multispectral on there, or you've got the 20 megapixel for mapping, or you got your thermal swap over, I mean, that is going to be absolutely brilliant, really, to be honest. Why have 3 different aircraft You just got the one, and it does it all.
It does. Yeah, I mean, I use the Subaru Outback, and you guys have different cars in other parts of the world. Hopefully, you have the Subaru Outback.
We've heard of those, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, and hopefully it's as. I mean, here in America, and I live up in the mountains, so a lot of people have Subarus. It does almost everything you need, 80%. Now, can it do that 20 to 10% specific job as well? Like, I don't know if there's a multispectral payload yet. The current thermal payload is better than the Skydio X2. It's 3-axis stabilized and better specs. It's not as good as the X10 thermal payload. And I think they're coming up with a better one as well. It's just trying to set people's expectations. What you're saying is nice. You don't have to buy multiple fleets of aircraft. Oh, something else I should mention. It supports multiple controllers at once, which I haven't been able to test, obviously, but there's like a handoff mode where it can support the 3 different GCS at once. So there's like some sort of mesh connectivity. The radio link is actually really good. It is. I'm not going to compare it to DJI, but it impressed me. It uses some a relatively well-known OEM that has been making control links for a while. I was expecting it to be a little bit more. I had lower expectations, to be honest with you. I had pretty low expectations, and it exceeded all of them.
Mitchell's just joined us. He's a rather influential person. Maybe you can just quickly demonstrate it for Mitchell again. I'm sure they're going to Canada as well with them.
Yeah,
oh,
so,
nice clunk on the box there as well. Like the clunk on the box.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The box itself. It's this one is. I don't think it's fair to share this box because my understanding is that they're not going to be shipping with this box. There's a newer version.
Oh.
So like, for example, and this is again a testament to this like mindfulness, the design. In this box, the drone can't be packed with the props on, and the box has custom slots only for 4 props with this like beautiful overlapping Velcro like closure system. And again, I think the Japanese are probably much more mindful operating their products than we are because I don't go anywhere without spare props. Probably you folks don't either. And the idea of being able to pack this without the propellers, it adds a little bit more friction. So I didn't think it was representative of what they're going to be shipping, so I didn't want to share it.
Fair enough.
It is smaller and lighter than the Evo Max or the M30. It is certainly more substantial than the Mavic. But you can tell like it's burly. Like everything about it has a beefiness to it, from the tensioners and the arms. The motors are uniquely notchy. The gimbal motors are extremely robust. It's a rugged product, except there's no documentation, or I haven't been able to get information on how rugged it truly is. Right? You feel it, and it's a quality product. You have confidence that it's going to last and it's going to do the job. The question is we'd like some specs probably, so we know what weather we can fly it in, what we can't fly it in. It uses its own flight control software, by the way. Like the GCS, let me mention the autopilot is proprietary. That software is proprietary, but it is Mavlink compatible. So we've been talking with the UAS Nexus and the folks at ACSL, giving us input about, okay, this is how you could open this up to other integrations. So software integration, for example, like not everybody, sir, has the knowledge that you have about mapping. I think a lot of folks, particularly out in the field, they're looking to do an automated solution. They only know how to use drone deploy. They only know how to use Pix4D or some other type of application. So if you can open this up through software, I think there's a lot of potential. And there is no like subscription type software thing. ACSL is not a software company. They're a hardware company, and they make money on the bits and bobs that they ship. So it's nice. There's not like they're going through value-added resellers. There's not a pressure to sell. But to compare this to the Mavic 3, I think is unfair. I think we need to have realistic expectations. I actually also, to be honest with you, I've never flown the Mavic 3 other than the thermal variant. And it was just briefly. I've heard, yeah, I mean, it's, you know how DJI is, right? You buy a drone next year, they're going to come with a better one. Like, I keep hearing about there's a new Avata coming at some point this year, like several months. It's like, how are you going to make it better? Like, it's already really good. You're going to give it more flight time and a better camera. Like, damn, what happens to the rest of us schmucks that's, threw down the money? So this is
good day there.
this is pretty future proof. They're not going to be up to. I don't know if they're going to be creating a SOTIN 2 anytime soon, but they're investing in the ecosystem. Yeah, and
So I'm quite interested, Bruce. Is this gonna succeed in America? Have they got a chance? I'm interested in Bruce's opinion of this.
I don't know. I'm honest about it. I've got no idea. It's a camera drone. Who cares?
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, even like the battery method, like it feels
and
like.
What size is that battery?
Good question. 23.1 volts, 96.442 watt hours.
Okay, just under 100. That's handy.
Yes,
that's handy. That's handy.
Very handy.
It's got 3 of them in the case as well, with a charger that balances. It can charge them all at the same time, kind of like all the DJI.
Yeah, that's a handy battery size. Mick, is the government law enforcement big enough? I don't think it's for that market. It's for the mapping market, but not blue, but NDAA compliant rather. Yeah. So that market's probably, and it's half the price of the Skydio mixing. Not so sure what mix servicing these days, whether it's F-18s or something else now.
I think with
F-16, sorry.
I think with the thermal payload, it's still cheaper than the Skydio, but it is more expensive than what I quoted. I think it's like, I don't have a price sheet on me, but you can ask like the folks at the different value add, depending on where you are, you can ask their resellers. They're all selling for the same price. I think the thermal, don't quote me on this. I think it's between like 5,000 and 6,000 extra, something like that. I'm not too sure. But when I saw slides of the different payloads. I can see that being used for public safety. I'm also the wrong person to ask, because I did spend the last week meeting with different lawmakers trying to answer specific questions, learning more about what the public safety folks want. But I have a bad taste in my mouth about what we're trying to do here in the United States on the state and local level. So I'm not the right person.
It's just a newer version of the bumbling that's been happening the whole time. It's just another homemade speed bump that your market's getting. It'll go away.
What the crazy thing is, and so the drones allegedly spy and send in data, which then can be grabbed by the Chinese. Blah 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 blah. Wait until BYD start coming out with smart driving cars that are just sucking up data like Wano. They'll make what they think DJI are doing look like a picnic.
I think they probably already are.
Yeah,
it's already happening. But that's a different kettle of ball games, really. I think that the problem is lobbying. And look, here I am. Let's pretend I'm in America and I inspect things, and I know I've got to have NDAA gear, and I can have 2 of those for the price of one Skydio. I know what my little company would be doing. It's an easy sell for, but I think you're right, Bobby. It does need the click and go mapping ability, but that will come very quickly, I'm sure.
Where's the patriotism? Where's the buy? Where's Make America Great Again? Remember Pearl Harbor?
I'm only laughing just because how you guys, not you guys, but non-Americans view our own country's approach to drones, and the if you say anything, I personally have had people attack my patriotism for the last 12 months, ever since I started UAS Nexus, and I've been speaking a little more openly about the gap we have to close between the Western companies and the Chinese companies. People are consistently telling me, I'm a Chinese communist sympathizer, all these horrible things, without realizing that none of my clients are Chinese. 80% of the blue companies I'm working with, and that's why I think this is so important. And I really appreciate ACSL giving me this opportunity to be like, hey, this is one of the other types of products that are coming out in the market. And this is not meant to compete. So, my own opinion, this is actually not meant to compete with like a Free Fly or Astro or Inspired Flight IF-800. They're a different category of aircraft, because those things can carry the full frame A7R and the ILX, and they have they can carry LiDAR, and they're more of, I would say, a workhorse. For the form factor, I think you nailed it. Like, there's nothing else like it. That with the swappable payloads, And if you don't need what the IF800, that class, the medium lift and up category, then this is a great solution, and at a fraction of the price.
Yeah.
Of these other products. But I'm excited to see. I mean, what I'd love to see, honestly. Let me ask you this too: if anyone's watching this, would you guys pay like a few grand to have this payload on your drone? Like, if you got the same capabilities,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's got the mechanical shutter, and if it's a 1-inch sensor under there, they are rare. That you've got to jump to like something like the Sony A7, and then, like you say, you need a bigger aircraft. If you're going to hike around a free fly, that's a big case. But let's say you want to now jump on let's say you've got a job, I don't know, 2 states away. You can literally drive to the airport, jump on the plane with that aircraft. The 3 batteries all meet the watt average, where a free fly Alta won't. I'll tell you now, you're driving it. Do you know what I mean? Where you now jump straight on a plane, that as a carry-on with the batteries, you're there, you'll have the job done and back before the guy has even arrived in the 2 states away.
That's a good point.
It's amazing.
The payloads cost, like, actually, I'm pretty sure this specific payload optimized for ACSL is just over $1,000. The thermal one is between $5 or $6 grand, and the one with optical zoom is like in between that price. I don't really know. I think they're probably going to offer some sort of kit where you get all 3 payloads for like under 20 grand, right? So you can get everything with the RTK for under 20 grand, and if you want the smart controller, like, that's probably the way to do it. If I were to give ACSL some free consulting, because nothing else will really, catch up. But the idea of actually getting this payload on other aircraft,
onto other aircraft.
This is what I'm actually excited about too, because you can put this on something. You may not need an A7R4. Like, your customers may not need that, and if you can put something that's this light on a Free Fly Astro or an Alta X or an Ascent Spirit, any blue system, you get that much more flight time that can still meet that criteria and baseline for image quality.
Now, what's really interesting is you could even build your own aircraft again, because if we had been able to get hold of that kind of payload and camera back in 2014, could you imagine a little cube aircraft, sub 7 kilo? Well, back in the day, we had the sub 7 kilo rule, but that's all gone now. But you can imagine that you could build almost your own Phantom 4 Pro without having to have. And let's face it, the Phantom 4 Pro and the RTK version are still the best 2 mapping drones that have been around for ages. And yet you've got there an aircraft that could basically replace them, plus you gain thermal if you want it, and have a zoom. Hang on a minute. It's a win-win.
Something I will say. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, after you, Bobby.
Well, I was going to say, the folks outside the U.S., so like, I didn't realize this until traveling. We have this FCC stuff we have in the U.S. We're privy to have a lot more power output.
Yeah.
Our noticeable difference in range is way more pronounced. Like, it's, for us, we can tell bad range way easier, whereas you folks aren't flying more than a half mile regardless, or a mile max. So you don't really have. There's people out there, you see videos on YouTube, people flying and maxing the DJI drone, flying it out 40,000 feet, 5-6 miles. You don't really have those experiences, I think, overseas. So the issue with range is kind of mitigated. I don't know. It's funny because they do offer the multiple controller option. I'm curious about how you'd use that in a mapping or inspection workflow, but I'm not the right person.
So the ideal thing there is, when you got a nice big building and you can't see around the other side, like the facades are in the way, you can have one pilot flight down one side, and as it comes round the corner, the other pilot can then take it and bring it to do the other side. It would be really handy in those kind of situations.
And they'd both be VLOS then as well. Be much happier for situation for the regulators.
Okay.
I was going to ask Ian, what you're the camera aficionado here. What are your instant thoughts on this thing?
My thoughts are, I'm just nah. Until somebody brings up an anamorphic drone, I'm just not interested. I mean,
fair enough.
We've had a decade for people to just give us an anamorphic drone. Give us some squeeze.
Something like that. Okay.
Well, let's put it here there. There we go.
Give you some screws. Oh, fair enough then. So that's of the 5 of us here, 2 of us have said meh, in effect. So there we are. It's I think it's a very interesting thing, and I just wonder if they'll be able to get people revved up enough about it to sell it. As you said, Bobby, it's the first iteration. If they're landing with this, and this is number 1, it's a really good start. It bodes very well. So good luck to them, I say.
The one thing I do like is when you have cameras where it's not integrated into the drone, but no one's really ever made the best use of that. You know, the idea being that when camera technology moves on, you could still keep flying the same platform and just put the latest camera on.
Change the latest camera on.
Cameras.
That's what you really want to do, but no one's ever done that well or at a cheap enough price where you actually genuinely do it. But that's still like a bit of an untapped market. The problem here is, especially like in the UK, and it's probably true across Europe to some degree, is the way regulation is. Nobody wants to fly anything big at all. You know, the only way to fly anything with no hassle these days is to be flying sub 250.
But that's all going to be regulated out of the way anyway soon. It'll be like Japan, where it's 110 grams in Japan, isn't it? It's so very lightweight in Japan. 200.
To be honest, though, you just kill off the commercial market doing that. So I mean, really, what your commercial market is at the moment, people be using. You know, a lot of the jobs will just bring, have a Mavic Mini or equivalent, and then you'd be going for your Mavic 3 Pro when you really need that extra video quality or whatever. And then you've got people in the specialist areas, obviously they've got no choice but to fly something specific for mapping or whatever other task it is you're doing. But yeah, I think you do seem to see more these days. People just, I just want, people just seem to be aiming for the least hassle that just gets them the results they need.
A recovery drone saying it'll appeal to, of course, it'll appeal to the industrial operators. And America's this weird situation where they're lobbying out DJI and Chinese stuff, thinking that Bobby's probably not like me saying this, thinking that their market is going to rush in, their manufacturers are going to rush in and replace it all. And I can see Japanese and European manufacturers plodding back in and, thank you very much. Great, you've got rid of DJI and opened up the market for us. I can't see it happening unless there's some big changes in thinking over there. But anyway.
Here's one of my takeaways, though. Did you say they're looking for distributors or something there, Bobby, in the States?
So I think they have to look on there. Off the top of my head, I know they have Advecture, the folks from Volatus and Genpack, and there might be a handful of others that are distributors. I assume they have European distributors as well.
Just because how DJI dealt with its distribution network, so its premium network, they did a bit of a dirty, didn't they, where they suddenly went, you can now buy our premium aircraft direct from us, you don't have to go through your distributors. I think there's going to be a lot of American distributors that are going to want to suck this drone up, and if you, like you say, if they can make the numbers, I think they could do very well out of this.
Something I want to mention, so the woman who runs ACSL Inc. in America is former DJI and former Auterion, and one of the sharpest people, I'd say, in the whole industry when it comes to understanding kind of the business dynamics. She's really extremely sharp, and I think has admittedly learned from the mistakes DJI has made and other companies as well. And I know, when I learned about this opportunity, when she started to run the thing, I had actually only heard of not the Soten, but I'd seen some of their other drones in Japan. But also their CTO is also here, is a brilliant guy in the US. But if you think of this, the reason I'm actually very enamored with this is that this is in my opinion, a case study as to how to actually build the drone through an industrial base here in the West. So it's a consortium, right? And you have these larger industrial companies who've allocated bits and resources to develop a certain piece of the aircraft, whether it's the autopilot or the camera, camera gimbal assembly, motors, etc. And I think of, and I've spoken to many folks at length about this, is we need to have something like that here in America before we have some sort of ban, because anything else is just premature. And it would be very nice to see some of these larger companies consolidate some resources, whether it's for manufacturing, certain R&D and tech transfer, to build out some really incredible product. Because right now if you could just imagine, right, if you had folks, large OEMs, and I think you're seeing this right now with Qualcomm working with, say, like the folks at Modal or the folks at, say, Cube, building certain solutions, you're going to get, I think, I hate to use the term synergy because it's like a Bay Area douchebag term, but you get a real synergy of different companies working together, creating some really cool technology. So we need the gimbals, we need the radio link companies. I think we already have the autopilot manufacturers here in the West that have been pretty, I mean, you guys know me, I've been a Cube customer since, you know, the late 2000s, or since it came out. So I'm not really, you're preaching the converted on my end. It's just, I think that seeing what Yamaha did, and when you touch the product, you see the product, there's like a quality of manufacturing and a consistency of that, and on certain levels, exceptional engineering. You're like, oh shit, like this is how we can win. You know, to quote Forrest Underwood, who's I think one of the brighter people in our industry, he used to work at Shield. He always has a saying, "This is how we win," referring to, you know, the competition between China. I think this has been a great example of how, you know, Japan is looking at doing things. But with respect to the Japanese, we Americans, we aren't reserved in that same way. And in the Western in general, right? We're hungry. For us, it's about innovation and moving things faster. And the minute you have a consortium like this in the UK, you have like BAE working with, say, like UAV tech or something like that, you're going to see something like this come out. Or in Eastern Europe with some of the defense primes in Estonia.
Were you close to suggesting it's boring, Bobby? Were you saying you bring out this boring platform that works, that does the job? Were you close to saying that?
I don't want to say boring. So boring is probably not a good way to say it. It doesn't overpromise. That's what's so unique about it.
That's
I
a good thing.
Right, there's like very minimal marketing. They show that the specs are conservative in the way that they kind of market everything. You've seen from how they, you know, they're not spending money on all of this crazy marketing materials online, social media ads. It's really just word of mouth through folks like myself and other people who've flown the product. And I like that. I'm excited to see where this company goes. I'm not the right person to talk to really when it comes to giving you mapping samples. But I'd love to see this in the hands of people who know how to do RTK, PPK really well, and see some of the finished product and compare that with other things, whether it's the Phantom. And I think that you're going to see that. Unfortunately, don't have a Phantom 4 or a Mavic 3 to do the proper comparison. I have some Autel drones and some other platforms that probably wouldn't be a good comparison, but interested to see how that works. And yeah, I'd like to get, like, I have the documentation. They don't talk about some things like IP rating and other stuff, which I think would be helpful for some of us, especially like you folks in the UK.
I think somebody put it in the comments. I think it was put somewhere up there in the comments. Yeah, a lot of that's got saying it's reserved and competent in a Japanese way, and Think Flight says effective. So yeah, I think you know, I should say there's my little, you can't see it, but my little Autels over there, and that does loads and loads of great work for me, and it's good enough. And in the hands of somebody that knows what they're doing with the mapping, it'll be very interesting because, of course, the DJI review crowd don't really do mapping, most of them. So it'd be interesting to see if they must get it in the hands of some engineers and some surveyors, an actual surveyor, and see the quality.
Do you guys know Jeremiah Wong? He works now for Skyler. He used to work for Frontier. One of the brightest.
I know the name, yeah.
One of the most brilliant mapping and surveying folks here in the U.S. And he speaks truth to power. He's like, he will not filter what he tells you about the product. I'd love to see his input on this. I'm actually supposed to be seeing. I wonder if I'm going to be taking this to Geo Week, so maybe we'll get a chance to kind of see that there if you guys are going to be there. Super Bowl weekends, February 11th to the 13th in Denver, Colorado, and maybe we can actually do that type of, you know, data capture and do that side by side.
Yeah, it'd be just side by side. Be very interesting.
There is one point I'll make as well. The synergy isn't just for Bay Area douchebags; it's against global douchebags, and I expect a lot of new space meetings will use the word synergy a lot.
New space meetings, yeah, absolutely. talking. But look, please stay with us, Bobby. But look, we've spoken for 50 minutes on this already, which is, I think there's probably another 50 minutes in it as well. IP43 says Mick. Thanks, Mick. I wanted to, because that one thing when I set this up, I didn't know Bobby was coming. This has happened this evening, and B, this little article here popped up just after I posted. Not much has happened this week, and this I think it was interesting all around the world. This consortium, where they're named down here somewhere, aren't they? All the names, there they are. So this group says drones must pay for anything electronic conspicuity. Who's going to go? Who's going to go first?
That's a damn good idea. That's a very
there we are.
tax. We need a drone tax. We need to. Every drone should have an annual tax over and above the registration fee to cover these sort of crucial safety issues, because we just cannot afford to see the death toll from the recreational use of multi-rotor drones continue at the rate which it's going.
Can I just give my response in one way to all of these people that suggested this, that we should pay for electronic conspicuity, where if it was drones hitting stuff all the time, we would, of course, pay the price in one way or another. We've had regulations thrown at us. We've had the BS lies for so long. Why should we pay for their safety? Because electronic conspicuity would do one thing. It would make all of manned aviation safer, because we avoid them. That's it in a nutshell. We don't do anything else other than avoid them. But they, like magnets to each other at times. How many incidents so far this year, Gary?
You're very harsh.
Too many.
They've got skin in the game, mate. They've got skin in the. We're just clueless, careless, and criminal. They've got skin in the game.
Yeah. So my response to the people here, of all of these that think we should pay for it, is this: they can all do this.
He's very rude, isn't he? There goes the monetization on this stream.
I guess you didn't see last week, Mark, where we've even had a price on it, 30p a flight.
Oh,
30p a flight. That's right. Yes. Yeah. 30p a flight.
Is that 30 pence a flight?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And is that your cents?
Yeah. Cents. Yeah. It's about 35 cents or 34 cents a flight. Yeah.
Well,
that's that.
The thing is, it wouldn't solve the problem anyway, because electronic conspicuity in and of itself isn't a solution. Pilots already have a high enough workload. They don't need to be keeping a lookout for drones. They're not going to have a little thing on the dashboard that says beep beep, there's a drone somewhere. So it's not going to benefit the pilots in any way until there's a UTM in place. And so until you built the UTM, you don't need the EC. And once the UTM's built, then users of the UTM will effectively be paying for the cost of the EC anyway.
Well, it gets even better, Bruce, because EC, if manned aviation sees a drone, it shouldn't be doing the avoiding anyway. The drone should take the avoiding action, because we are the lowest form of scum in the sky. So we avoid them, which means they should be transmitting. So we can pick that signal up and go, oh, look, there's some dipshit flying below 400 feet. Oh, I need to get my aircraft a bit lower.
Well, yeah, hopefully we can...
So the captain of the British Airlines plane can go, we've seen a drone on the scope. We're all going to die.
If a BA airliner, right, is that low, as I used to tell my students, if you ever come across an airliner that's sub 400 feet and you're in the middle of nowhere, he's already screwed. He's already got far bigger problems than you'll ever have.
He's looking for his door plug.
I think the interesting thing is that, to me, though, is you've got the BBAC. I'm a member of that. The BGA, British Hang Gliding, British Microlight, British Skydiving, Helicopter, Light Aircraft Association, PPL, etc. All those groups, and that looks like it's a lot of people because there's lots of names on that list. And if we respond and say private, commercial, and private drone flyers, that's just two groups. But it would. Hello! I've stopped sharing. I didn't mean to do that. I meant to share a different tab. That didn't go well. That was supposed to be a really slick transition that didn't work at all.
Tune in, Gary, just to see your technical mishaps.
Absolutely. But look, there are 390,000 more RPAS users than there are in that list here.
That's the size
of all this lot.
Isn't it? Look how big the problem is. That's why we need EC. 390,000.
I would
problems.
actually say, though, Gary, I think that figure is still exaggerated. And given what we've seen of figures when it comes to anything these days of drones, that how far can we trust it? But yeah, no, I get you to the point. Still a lot more.
Yeah, but in that list, if we say, but you know, there's a private and a civil, a commercial and a civil drone users group, that'll be 2 lines on this list. And there's all these other lines of other people. Oh, there must be more of them. You know, you could easily.
It is really wrong, and I really hate stuff like this when these people in aviation come up with stuff that is either they've not been told the technology that's out there already. So we could turn around and go, well, hang on a minute, because this position paper is just BS in my book, because quite clearly, Altitude Angel have the Skyway, right? Now that Super Skyway would mean no changes to anyone flying in that airspace, be it manned or not. It would make no difference to anyone. They will continue to do what they do. They follow the rules of the air. There's no need for EC at all. And yet that seems to be completely omitted. It's like they don't know what technology is already out there right now. And it's a shame that no one's going to these people. Look, if you actually backed this system, it would actually mean nothing changes for you guys at all. And the only drones that are flying inside the Skyway that are connected to it for the BV lost flights, they're the only ones that will actually receive any signals from the system. Everyone else, just do what you do.
Right? Can't we just put a 100-watt power amp on our remote ID transmitters?
Yes. They
don't need to do anything. But if they're going to bang on that we should pay for something, that's ridiculous. It's not for us to pay for their safety. They should pay for their own safety, because the way the CIA is towards drones and problems on the ground, or something might fall off and hit someone, or blah, 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 right? You think the world's going to end sometimes, the way the CIA talks about drone flying. The kicker is, if manned aviation is manned aviation, and the AAIB said, oh, if we give everything electronic conspic like FLARM or ADSB, did all that, right? Do you know what? I reckon manned aviation would kick up a stink. And they will go, oh, no. Where we go, oh, crap. We'll kick up a bit of a stink. And they said, oh, we shouldn't fly we should never fly directly over someone, just because it could possibly fall on someone. Yet manned aviation quite clearly does hit manned aviation in the air. This does happen, and it's well recorded it happens. Yet if they could have devices that means they could see each other and could save lives, it's like, no, someone else could pay for that.
So you should probably, if you get a chance, bring somebody from UAvionics like Christian Ramsey or somebody else. Bring them on, because I remember when Ramadi was coming out, he proposed, we can reflash these ADSB transponders. ADSB is great. FAA said we don't want to congest the skies, which, listen, we all do this for work. There aren't that many drones in the sky right now for it to matter. But then to just be able to use that, it was like 1068. I forgot what band it was. I thought it was actually a really novel solution. I did want to add something though about ACSL. It turns out they do have a multispectral payload. I don't know how much it is, but I guess they do. So you can get one drone that can support a number of different types of missions for the mapping and surveying customer. And I appreciate the folks saying it was IP43. I didn't know that. So I feel more comfortable flying it in some less than ideal conditions. You guys have, so there's been some laws here in the United States, particularly in my home state of Utah. And the reason Utah is unique is that we're actually very drone friendly. Zipline is able to fly in a unique corridor here. We have drone up doing delivery operations, I think up to a mile in like Harriman and in two different locations. This law, and this is what I've been talking to legislatures about here in my own state last week, does a few things. One, it actually wants to set up like a tax, like basically a statewide registration fee for drones. So you have to pay an additional registration fee if you want to use a drone here. And then I think it's it's $100 for drones weighing above 55 pounds. And I think this is a little bit frustrating for two reasons. One is that making drone use punitive adds more friction to being a drone operator, and like that's the last thing I want to deal with. And I run my own business and I hate doing paperwork. Can you imagine every drone operator having to do an extra step just to jump through an extra hoop? This is just one, and then that same law has provisions for this is why I made the country of origin video, is because the senator is also, there's section 12 here that talks about you can't use drones from China. And I have a back and forth exchange with him, and this is why I also call that AUVSI, because he cites the AUVSI brief as his reasoning for banning some of these drones. You can go down further to section 12. So this also like talks with urban air mobility. They have tweaked some of these. The rumors they're actually tweaking a provision now to carve out and make public safety an exemption, after many of us went and spoke with the senator. But it was frustrating to hear this guy say, yeah, I'm concerned about the Chinese sharing the source code with Russia so they can take over Ukrainian drones on the battlefield. And he came to this conclusion after a security brief from AUVSI. And this is
wow.
And it's a little frustrating to me because, man, I'm an AUVSI like member.
Well, there's no accounting for taste.
I don't know if I'm a member.
There's no accounting for taste, Bobby.
Well,
you know, it's a free world. But
no, for sure. I think that they're a very important advocacy group. It's just disappointing to see this type of misinformation essentially being permeated. Now, to be honest with you, I think it's lost in translation, because I know the folks at AUVSI, Michael Robbins, Scott Stoffman, they're very smart people. They're not stupid, and I don't think they'd be making presumptions like this. But something was lost in translation between what these folks are saying and what the lawmakers are interpreting that is creating some pain points. And like, this law prevents you from being able to, public safety agencies from purchasing Chinese drones effective May 2024, which, like, I'll be straight with you, man. If I'm lost in the damn woods, I don't want anybody looking for me with any product that isn't the best. And right now, you know, if it's a Dragonfish or a Mavic 3 thermal or what have you, that's what it is. And speaking to the European equivalents, turns out all your police are using Chinese drones in every single country, all throughout the EU and the UK. They're almost entirely reliant on it, with few exceptions. There's some Parrot Anafis, there's a few like special forces folks, you know, someone's used a SWAT team using a Brink here and there. But overwhelmingly, it's more dominated by Chinese drones than it is even here in America. And I have my own concerns about the hysteria regarding the security of these drones. And this new firmware, like, you look at, I hate to say this, like, this is you know, the communist Chinese toy company that Patrick Egan keeps ranting about. Look at what they're doing to try and like self-regulate and ensure that their drones are not being, you know, abused by ignorant end users here in the United States. Like, we need this type of richness of integration. And I'm going to give Skydio credit. They've been doing a really good job of this. The mini drone part, though, this is something we can't compete with. I know, again, this is not a rub against Herbert and the folks at UAV Tech, who I'm a huge fan of. The Bug is not a comparable product to the Mini 4. They're meant, one's meant for the battlefield and tactical applications. One's meant for, you know, a pocket camera. And I think there's this misperception that we're able to close this gap today. I'd love to hear your guys' inputs of how long you think it's going to be for us to be able to catch up. I think it's going to be at least another 5 years for us to catch up and exceed what they're doing. Hopefully we can do it in 3, but the demand isn't there here.
Well, that's it. You're trying to sell to I know America's quite a big place, but it's not a huge place. DJI can sell easily to the entire planet. American companies can't sell outside of America easily because of ITAR. It's a hoop to jump through straight away. So you don't have the market. I think. But maybe level the playing field first. Don't be doing it from lobbying. Turn up as the Japanese have, with the thing that does what it says on the tin, quietly and unassumingly, and just does it without all the razzmatazz. #1, but I can't see an American company doing that, and they are tipping they've got their foot on firmly on the scale, lobbying like Billio to get the Chinese stuff out of the way. That certainly isn't the way to win a market. I don't think anybody can. Nobody can agree that the US is going to win if that's allowed to happen, because you won't catch up, because then they'll be able to, if they really are successful, they'll be able to sell mediocre products because it's the only thing that you'll be able to buy. I don't know. Maybe that's too harsh, Bobby, but that's how I see it's going.
If you haven't, if your market, if you're there and you're able to sell because of fear that you've put there, that the narrative around China and that, and really, essentially, what you're doing is you're using a narrative to create a barrier to trade. That there is no, there is no incentive to be pushing the boundaries and delivering something that's better than your competitor is doing, because all that costs you time in R&D and your software development, your testing, everything involved in it. It's all a hell of a lot of cost, and you don't need to be paying that cost if you can just simply sell, because there's no other buyer. There's no other seller that can sell to the buyer there because of the laws you put in place.
Yeah, it's not cool, and it's not going to work. And the green UAS scheme from AUVSI, $100,000 per widget that you want to get approved, that's going to knock small businesses to the floor. There's no way a startup can afford. Oh, I need to get this past the AUVSI. I mean, who anointed them kings of the world over there?
The trouble is, we've got a lot of kings of the world self-appointed around the world that don't really do anything to help anyone other than themselves.
Yes.
I don't have the antipathy against AUVSI that many people do. So if you look at AUVSI's biggest donors, they're like the larger defense primes. And this is something where I've actually spoken to some of the executives at these defense primes and had them reevaluate their support of AUVSI, specifically because if you are artificially boosting the smaller nascent drone startups, you're actually inflating their valuation that you're later going to acquire. You see what I'm saying? It's not doing you service in the end. You're going to be actually paying a premium on this technology. So what you should do is act like the industry. When I started UAS Nexus in March, and later, I brought my business partner and run AVSI. The goal was to help and try and save the industry. And honestly, I don't think it needs that. I think what it needs is a culling of the bad companies versus the good companies. And at the end of the day, the flood comes in. It's really only the strong buildings that survive. And at the end of the day, that is what I think we need. And that process actually allows for the transfer of human capital that no one thinks about. These companies fold. Who are the best and brightest of those companies? Where are they going to land? And we see that. You can see that LinkedIn is probably the best purview of seeing how companies are shifting, to see where people go and where they came from. And you can think of, why did that person leave that one company to go here, right? And then you can see, oh, someone else left that company. What was happening? And this happened when you knew American Robotics fired their entire American staff, essentially. The whole engineering team in America got fired. And then you think of Sprite. We talked about that maybe a few weeks ago, about that thing closing. It's very telling. I don't know. AVSI, I believe they're important. I just think that some of the stuff they're doing is misguided. The green list isn't going as swimmingly as everybody had hoped. There's only one person that's gone through that entire process. It's been almost a year. It's cost everybody more than they really thought it was going to. And that one, the folks at Skyfront, who I know quite well, for them it was actually quite painless. It was very cut and dry. The question then comes down to is, do you need the green list to actually get on the blue list? And I have to tell you, you don't.
No.
There's no requirement in the actual framework. I thought of this. When I spoke with DIU about this, someone joked. They're like, Bobby, you can make your own list and call it the fucking rainbow list. And
exactly.
Yeah. And I don't know. It's actually a service that we do at UAS Nexus, where people are like, hey, how do we get on the blue list? We sanitize your bill of materials. We ensure that everything comes from a certain place. We send that technology to the same exact place that AVSI sends the stuff to. Same OEM, same place that the DIU sends their stuff to. We don't mark up their charging at all. It's really our time that you pay for. Yeah, and some companies are taking advantage of that, but we need AVSI to exist. In my opinion, there's no alternative for someone just to pop up. Here's a competing organization. I think that just creates more fragmentation, and it's disappointing to see their initiative, I think, backfire. You've seen, it's not, LinkedIn is not, the real world, but you see how many people who are very prominent in the space be like, I refuse to go, and essentially boycott this organization. I'm going to San Diego. I hope to see all of you there, and I hope all of you join me. It's just unfortunate that this has ruffled so many feathers, because them not going actually doesn't help, in my opinion. Right? I got love for these folks. I appreciate their conviction, but boycotting this thing doesn't really change the perspective. The only way all we have to do is be empathetic. You folks have been extremely patient for the last several years with regulators, with technology, with startups, industry groups. What we need is to be empathetic and patient, I think, and ultimately have conversations like this as much as possible, not just in public, but in private, to be like, okay, what can we do to refine this? And people don't realize, talk to AUVSI, man. Reach out to Michael Robbins and Scott and their whole team. I believe they'll listen to you. I think it's really, I sometimes can come off a little aggressive. I was not very respectful to Michael Robbins the first time I met him on a podcast. I was very frustrated, and the man just approached me with such grace, and it was pretty damn thoughtful. And if that guy was able to give me his time, he's going to give you his time, especially if you haven't been rude to him like I was. So I suggest taking that effort, and talking and finding a solution, because if AUVSI is not always listening, you need to go talk to the people who sometimes are writing the checks and have an honest conversation, because we all want the same thing. We would love to see us not rely on China. It's our prescriptions for how to get there that differ, right? You want to ban Chinese drones without subsidizing Western drones or providing grant programs like we talked about earlier. That's shooting yourself in the foot. And this is an opportunity not just for here, but you folks in Europe and Africa and other parts of the world to close that gap. It might be, there might be a company right now in Kenya building a crazy drone we have no idea about, and their labor costs are lower than everybody else, and they've got the human capital. And I already know there's guys in Eastern Europe building something like this as well. So it's just a matter of time for it to come and really disrupt the Western drone market, and recalibrate lawmakers and industry groups' perceptions about how to really win.
Well, I think you can bring it back around to that Soten, which, people in our comments are saying reliable and whatever, and I'll just say beige. But the thing is, if it works, if it does what it says it works, that's not the sort of thing that people are looking at. Set the world on fire. We don't need to set the world on fire. We know the technology works. We know what companies need, and if it's simple and it works, then we need a lot more of that in this industry. Look, we've been going for over an hour. Sorry, Bobby.
No,
I put a full stop on you there. That was a bit rude. Sorry, that wasn't cool.
No,
Because I do have an important video that I feel that I have to.
Yeah,
I have
there's
to
a
show.
Skin in the Game video I've sent you that shows how responsible people are that aren't drone pilots. That if skin in the game means you're entirely responsible.
Skin in the game.
Taylor Swift AI one.
It's this one. Shall I zoom it in a bit? And do you know what? I know exactly where that is. It's Alton Barnes, where I used to fly model gliders. So, yeah, nothing wrong with that. What are you suggesting? This is a little bit risque.
That wing is.
Do you think there's actually a piano in there? Is there audio in this?
There should be.
Where do I get that? Oh, I don't know. All right, that's in the too hard thing. But what a...
But yeah, I mean, this is maybe what we should all be doing instead. Just put a gimbal on there, and we probably don't need all the red tape to jump through. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it does rather show the the paragliding lot were in that. I've shut that. They were in that list, weren't they?
Yeah, that's what made me think of this. I just thought, that's for this group.
Yes. Yes, has he got some sort of EQ device in that piano? He's got plenty of room to carry it, hasn't he? Yeah, it is a madness, isn't it? Was it throwing out the baby with the bathwater, or whatever the phrase is? It's a new industry, but it's yeah.
A good suggestion in the comments there. Just put a bit of Taylor Swift over that video, and there you go. The world will be set on fire.
So I don't know this, but for us Americans, this show is like is novel because we don't really get to interact with people outside of our own country. So and our only it's true because our only access to British culture is BBC. So like, you know, talking with the folks like Steve Emerson, like will use sometimes these phrases, and I'm like, the fuck was that? He's like, oh, it's just a British saying. And the gentleman Mads Tech, like,
Oh, Ian, yeah, he's Welsh. No, he's Welsh.
Yeah,
Welsh.
I've seen Disney films. But I swear to God, he's voiced like a Disney character. Right? There's an element of charm. There's an element of charm that you guys have, and I appreciate Bruce. Like, I've been following your videos since the early days. You were like you are one of like my early inspirations to get into this hobby. You answered so many of, not just me, but tens of thousands of other people's questions, man. And I hope to meet you in person. I hope you come to the States sometime, even though I don't blame you for not wanting to visit, because I've heard your country is pretty incredible. But yeah, I mean, drones and sundry. And I asked somebody, I was like, what the fuck is sundry? He's like,
it's mostly sundry actually.
Comes
What we
after
do is
Saturday.
it's mostly sundry. Yes.
he's like, it's just like, is it just like British banter, but like with tea? And I'm like, I don't know. All right.
Yeah. It's just mostly sundry. We don't
that as well.
There you are. You see, he has the tea. Yeah, it just means we don't have to just talk about drones.
Are you going to play God Save the King now, Gary?
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's not such a popular vibe here in South Africa.
I think sometime, Gary, you will have to come over to the UK, and we should do SUS news from a bathtub in Yorkshire. Just
yeah. Very, very open to that sort of suggestion. I mean, the absolute dream is to suddenly win the lottery, and then we'll hire because at the end of the runway at Farnborough there's a canal, and you could have a canal barge, and our studio would be in a canal barge. We could have lots of beer on a canal barge and invite people from the air show to come through that gate and come and chat to us on the boat. And we could sit on the roof of the boat and watch the display for free. Hooray! That'd be great.
Well, if you do that, you get the drunk first and you'll get a lot more information.
Absolutely. Oh, Chris Dines, what have I walked into? You've walked in at the wrong time, Chris. It was all safe and secure earlier, but we've been talking an hour 17, and I have to do this is the bit where Ian now is going to come out with 25 minutes of other stuff that we haven't discussed. So before we go, has anyone seen any?
It's an important one.
Here we go.
You might want to have a read of it. It's the shooting down, the first UK shooting down of a DJI, well, of a drone, and in this case, it was a DJI Mini.
I am opening it now. Here we go.
You guys have guns in the UK?
Yeah, this was a shot. Oh, to be honest, there's been, I know, 2 commercial operators that have had a real gun shot at the drone. This will be a hobbyist, and it was suggested that he was flying somewhere where he shouldn't have been. But then again, if someone's breaking the law, it doesn't give you the right to become a vigilante and then bring out a gun and mete out justice. Because it'd be like, I could stand on any road in the city here where I live and see drivers breaking the law, and it doesn't give me the right to bring out a shotgun and start taking a pot shot at the cars. So what we have here is a drone that was apparently filming some vintage cars. But apparently it was within an ATZ, but we don't know how far in. And someone just come along with the shotgun and said, well, that drone shouldn't be here. I will shoot it out of the sky. So really the question was, what's going on with the case? And it's been closed down, which means the police have gone, ooh. And so I just simply said, well, what happened then? Was there any charges against the drone pilot? Was there any charges against the gun holder? Because obviously, if you're a licensed gun holder, one of the things you're not really supposed to be doing is going whatever it was called. You should just taking justice into your own hands and dishing out that via the just firing of bullets into the air. But if basically if you scroll down, you'll get more information there. But the police have said basically, go all the way down, and then scroll back up, because you know how these things go, Gary. It's to and fro all for ages.
Yeah. What's this? Are you being sarky here? I made this for you a few months ago. Since it's been ignored. Look at you getting sarky. Look at you.
Yeah, they made me wait for over 4 months just for an answer, so you have to keep going down.
See,
all the way down. Scroll with that button on the wheel.
While Gary scrolls, just to allay some misconceptions from the rest of the world, we are allowed shotguns in the UK. You can get a gun license to own a shotgun.
Yeah, which would mainly be farmers that would have them.
Yes.
So, although you don't have to be, there are shooting clubs still over here, so it'd be just strict regulation to go through than in the US. Okay. So yeah, you'll have to just go from this. This is me. This evening, actually, just before the show. In fact, I was typing away at the start of the show, so that was me replying back. So if you just go up one more and go past that one, because that's just a confirmation. So this is where I just ended it. I've just said, could you at least clarify if charges were pursued for the damage to the drone, such as a caution, or has there been no action at all whatsoever, or was there even an informal arrangement for the drone to be paid for? Because if not, essentially what we've got now is it saying that essentially if someone thinks you're breaking the law, they can shoot your drone out the sky, and we're not even talking about criminal damage. That someone's gone, oh, well, you know, you're breaking the law then, he's broken the law. One thing, one cancels out the other and you both let off. You know,
two wrongs making a right and all that sort of a thing. Yeah. Oh, my word. So this is one of, sorry, after you, Mark. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump on you.
Sorry, but yeah, that is, as I understand it, the police force, if they do not take the firearm off that person for doing that, for causing deliberate damage to property or something like that, then there's something wrong with that police force. Because the only time that a farmer is permitted to shoot at something would be a dog that is out of control, harassing sheep in the UK. You're not allowed to shoot someone's vehicle. You couldn't shoot a car. You couldn't go around shooting, just letting gunshots off at anything in random. It has to be used for the purpose it's kind of intended
to. If you'd used a knife, you'd be in more trouble.
Yeah, well, you know, sheep with knives is a problem.
It is in Wales.
Yes.
Velcro gloves are a problem in Wales.
So this is
the comments have said is, this is criminal damage. Surely that's what everyone has said. This is surely at least criminal damage, but the very fact that the case is closed does suggest this is all just gone poof and it's vanished, and nothing has happened. So there's questions there he's answering, and what they're doing is they're trying to use the misuse, as is so often the case, the Freedom of Information Act, saying this would give away personal information. No, it wouldn't. I'm not asking for the names of any of the individuals involved. I'm not aware of the names of the individuals being in the public domain. So I don't think when it goes to the ICO that's going to wash anyway. But it looks like that's going to have to be the process of going all that way before eventually the action comes out. But yeah, if there had been action, I don't think there'd be really any need for any of this manipulation of the freedom of information again to say no, we don't want to talk about it. But yeah, if it is what it looks to be, which it looks to be no action, then it's not a good sign for the drone industry yet again, because it's this situation that, as Bruce says, you've got all the responsibilities plonked on you of an aircraft, but none of the benefits of protection.
Yeah. I think around the world, every regulator has said, you're flying an aircraft and you must behave as such. But we won't actually prosecute anybody that tries to take over your aircraft or do anything.
In America, that's different, though. So there has been a number of people who have been charged criminally. I think it's like $20,000 minimum and a 5-year prison sentence or something like that. That's like a federal offense. And there's nuances with it, too. And so, we have a lot of interesting laws in America, particularly regarding around guns and personal safety and property. So you don't own the airspace over your own home, over a blade of grass.
No,
was the idea.
no, nobody does anyway.
But many people in America, particularly those with guns, don't know that law. And so I've had drones shot at multiple. I used to live in North Idaho, which has some of the highest concentration of gun ownership in the United States. I was the only person probably in the whole town that didn't have a firearm. And I've had probably like multiple FPV aircraft. I had some that, you know, definitely had received some sort of, you know, spread shot. And, you know, you don't know where the person is. You're going to go press charges. You just know you don't want to fly there again.
Yeah.
I think the other issue is people are very, so the law also is a surface to air projectile or any sort of interference with an aircraft's operation. So if you threw like an American football or a rugby ball, or you kicked your version of football, our soccer ball, and it was a projectile and knocked a drone out of the sky, that's against the law. But if you had a bat or a super long stick and you jabbed it, and you were connected to that device, that's not against the law. And but the same goes for, like, say, GPS jamming, right? You want to take something down. It's a huge issue. In my opinion, I think that it's just a matter of time before people really that escalates, because you'll
just
see
writing a business idea down here. Start long stick counter UAS company. There we are. What are we going to call the long stick counter UAS company? Prod or something like that. Prod. There we are. Yeah. Prod, not
Prod long stick.
Yeah, I think what you're going to see happen is you'll have, like, as DFR and other things mature, you'll have a public safety drone looking for somebody, flying somewhere. Some angry citizen will shoot it down, and that'll be a really big deal. And then they're going to have to codify, like, okay, you went ahead and did a few different things. I don't know. I think that's just a matter of time, because if you look at the way, I'm sorry, I'm just laughing at some of these comments that are popping up here. The applications for beyond visual line of sight are disproportionately applicable in rural communities than there are in urban communities. So if you think of, like, you know, like delivering a defibrillator or Narcan or drones, a first responder, or like package delivery, what Zipline was doing in Africa, it's all in rural communities. In the United States, the rural communities have more guns per capita than the urban communities by orders of magnitude. I don't know if that's the same case in your part of the world. But I can only see this changing and increasing depending on where you are. It's a uniquely American problem. Everybody says this. Your gun problem is a uniquely American problem. Yeah.
Don't ever challenge the Second Amendment. Although it could be amended, never challenge it, because
I'm not opening up that. Yeah, I'm not opening up that can of worms. Any other questions about this before I put it away and head out? I have 2 minutes.
I was going to say, I know it's Chris that said it there, but that was also the question I'd asked. I'd asked if there was an informal arrangement, and they won't answer, which suggests again that it doesn't sound like there was an informal arrangement of shaking hands. And in the meantime, I asked ChatGPT for names for your device, Gary.
Very good. Oh, yes. And what's it going to be? Prodigy. That was a good one.
It seems to be quite keen for some reason with Skywalker 3000. Why 3000? But it said, let's have a look what it's come out.
Skywalker 3000.
It said drone bone.
Oh yeah.
The aerial bopper. That's a bit rubbish.
Aerial bopper.
What else have we got? That's about the best it's come up with so far. So yeah, artificial intelligence there, not entirely bowling us over, but it's giving it a go.
Well, funny you should mention that you've been using that, because of course I've been asking.
Have you been doing images?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah. Let's have a look. Let's see what they window that one there. Here we are.
Take care, friends.
Here's the choice.
Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate you.
All right. Okay. All right. Yeah, we were supposed to have gone ages ago. No Thanks, Bobby. Thanks very much for bringing that. Cheers, man. There we are. This his. I'm not sure I look like that. But
the bottom left one's not so bad, is it? It's just it's a shame it's putting a selfie camera on the stick.
Yeah,
Put
yeah.
large broom. That'll help the image.
Large broom. All right. Well, we'll not go down this rabbit hole because we're already over time. But but that is the way of forming a modern company, isn't it? Get onto ChatGPT, create some images, and wallet, we're away. Takes seconds. Right. Hour and a half we've been going. Anyone else seen anything else before we go?
Yes.
Yes, you've seen something else. You going to tell us, or are we going? Go on, mate.
Some guy got fined for flying his drone too high in the UK. They tracked him down and they fined him, which again proves that there's no need for remote ID. There's no remote ID in the UK yet, but they found the drone. Well, they saw he was flying too high, tracked him down, gave him a fine. So what's remote ID supposed to do again?
Yeah.
It must be Aeroscope, but this was an annoying one again. I'm actually going to look up at some point to see if there's a way of putting a complaint in for these, because it's yet the continual attitude by the BBC of doing drone stock of like a 10-year-old drone. And I wouldn't mind, the report even says from the court case, it was a small drone. So you think the least you could do is then it's a small drone, is not go to stock and ask for the big, scary looking drone.
Why didn't they use an Inspire in the picture? That would have been much better. That's what they usually use for small drones, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's just for once, I just like the Mavic Mini or the DJI Mini, which it usually is, just to be the stock.
But he modified it. So it could go higher than normal. How did he do that?
It just goes into the software and puts a height in.
Well, I'll admit right now, my drone height limit is 120. It's not 120 meters.
How do you know?
It's 101. It's 99. It's 24.
Yeah. So 121, isn't it? Yeah.
So the problem is, right, if you're flying at 400 feet high, and let's say there is a low-flying aircraft, if you cannot go up, or you cannot go, should I say, you cannot get down in time, and your only option is to push up to make sure that you are going to be clear of the aircraft. If your drone is stuck at 120 meters, I can't escape. I can't move out the way. I have to have a way to take avoiding action. But unfortunately, if you stick to 120 meters, your ceiling height, you're screwed. So
bloody big building.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, right? I don't go above it because it's the law. But what I have got is I can actually go higher because mine is set to go higher than 120 meters, just in case. Because for safety, I feel that it has to be that way.
It's just like my car can go faster than the speed limit because I might need to safely speed away from baddies.
See, they're looking at bringing in speed limit governors in the USA. 10 miles an hour over the limit is all you'll get. Only a matter of time.
Well, we're getting that for Europe, you know. We're getting that for Europe. So the whole of Europe, your cars as of 2020, I want to say 2024, 25, will beep at you to tell you that you're speeding. And you
Japanese cars do that already.
Disable it, but however, it's going to get worse because black boxes will come to cars around 2030-ish. But
I've got that system that I've got it fitted here. It comes behind the car. It's like flashing blue lights, and I hear sirens, and that informs me that I'm going a little bit too quick. Yeah,
but it's all about control. So, you know, it's all about. So this story with the drone, you know, and the wrong drone being in the picture, it's because as we get towards 2026 and bringing in remote ID, you watch the negative stories start to ramp because the press will be told that this is what has to be out there in the public domain. And we get a lot of this all the time. You know, we do get the push on certain stories for certain reasons. And it's just the way it is because fear controls the public. Fear gets
uncertainty and doubt.
I'm afraid of fear.
Well, of course, we're going to see it ramping up in America because March is the RID when the FAA will find some people to prosecute in March. I guarantee it. And then we'll see the ramp up for that. Now we'll definitely see that. We'll definitely see.
I mean, it's in Europe now, isn't it? It's just BS 101. It doesn't do anything for anything. It's just BS. And I'm expecting people to start cottoning on to come out with some nice Raspberry Pi software that'll suck up this data and shove it to the web. Because as soon as someone does that, fine.
Philip was talking about it last week. It already exists. Drone share it already exists.
It's
already there.
I'm sorry, I was there.
Yeah.
And don't forget what ANRA's doing.
ANRA, yeah, exactly.
Under FAA contract, isn't it?
Under FAA contract, but people will tell you till they're blue in the face that that's not happening. Well, there's the article, and probably if we looked hard enough, there's the contract. You know, it's humbug.
The best bit is use this
moment. Oh, sorry, just one moment with the guy with the naughtiness from flying too high. I thought again, what is it? The guy was 56, and the thing that does puzzle me with a lot of these people that are, being daft with drones, and they're old enough to know better. And it always just
I'm 56. Hang on, I did not. I resent being suggested that I'm old enough to know better. I really dislike that idea.
I think you're definitely old enough to know better. Well, what was the other thing? There was something else with him. Oh yes, it was saying that he got this off the groups or the hobbyists, which is a complete lie. I bet that it was watching the drone with binoculars and suggesting that he'd been told on the groups he was allowed to do that, and I don't believe that for a second.
Who on earth believe that? Because
who on earth advised him? Surely his brief would have gone off and done a little bit of research and discovered that wouldn't be a good thing to say.
Well, interestingly, like even you see it on the mini groups, a lot of people asking, "Well, if I'm using binoculars," and it's amazing how many people will say, "No, you can't do that." There are so many just going, "No, no, no, no." But if you do your operator ID and flyer ID, so if he had his flyer ID, it does tell you. Binoculars are not allowed. You're allowed to use glasses because glasses don't do anything, but binoculars, can you imagine? He's flying 3 kilometers away at some point. You imagine
3 miles.
On the drones away over there, get your binoculars, right? You try 5
You couldn't even hold them and hold the sticks. It doesn't make no sense.
But not only that,
maybe they were prescription binoculars.
And then you got to find
big like a FPV headset, but binoculars, strap going around the back. We could sell those. Hang on, that's another business idea. I know what that's called straight away. BV lost binoculars. That's what those. Yes, I know that one. We'll do that. It's another business. It's full of businesses.
Basically, he just was telling porkies, and he got caught. And probably by an aeroscope.
It's lucky someone didn't die.
Exactly.
That's all I can say.
Look, we've definitely deteriorated in nonsense, so it's time to go.
Quick field update.
Oh, go on then. Here we go. I told you we need to. I need to look back at this and see if we get to an additional 25 minutes from Ian. Go on then.
Yeah, we've got to have a few at the end to wrap it up. Well, for starters, there's be keeping an eye on them. We do need to keep an eye on this because I know Gary, you sent them an email as well, and they haven't responded. But as yet, there's still no outcome from the Emirates flight at Lyon. So we need to keep an eye on that when that comes out. But I have been, because people still keep asking. I say, "Oh, come out of that," and it's like, no, but I do keep checking. There's still ongoing. Don't know the outcome because it's not what I'm involved with, and you won't be allowed to say anyway. Because one of the conditions with an IPSO complaint is you can't discuss the ongoings as it's happening. But there's the Telegraph one that's still not resolved, so that's one we've got to keep an eye out for. And the Daily Mail one, that's still in progress. So that has progressed past IPSO saying it's a genuine complaint, and it's in discussions with the newspaper. So that's going on. So they'll be interesting to see those because they'll be the first two IPSO complaints the drone community has tried, and hopefully out of that we'll have some good outcomes if things are done justly and fairly that can be utilized in future. And there are a few Freedom of Information Acts which we'll discuss on this show once they're complete, which actually might make making complaints about the press a lot easier in future. So keep an eye out for those.
Yeah, you're working hard in the background. Things cannot be said, but trust me, dear viewer, Ian is working hard on some things, and he needs to set up a consultancy business for doing FOIAs.
Yes.
You need to have a
Yeah,
Big
does.
stick
I got
consultant.
£10 for you. I'd be quite happy. £100, and I could retire.
yeah, it's getting that way, isn't it? It's getting that way. And I think I saw on your feed. We'll end this one on a chat to Bruce. I think I saw you said you were going to be doing a little bit more flying videos coming, channels coming back alive. Bruce, is there anything
Yes.
further on that?
I have a big box of stuff from AliExpress. Wonderful.
Oh, is that the
some of the projects
AliExpress?
I'm working on? Yeah,
Did that
some of the
include some
projects.
county drone stuff you were linking to?
Oh, counter drone. I didn't buy any of
You
that.
know, there was some counter drone stuff, so I just wondered if you're buying any of that for
That
that.
would be illegal to use. No, this is to build stuff that's positively useful. But it's a real interesting experience getting stuff from AliExpress. There's stuff that doesn't work as documented, isn't documented, or is incorrectly documented. It's like a puzzle. It's great. It's a lot of fun. So for who was asking about the ADSB alarm before?
Mick was asking about that. Yeah.
One of the big problems I've had is display technology. Every time I choose a display and start building around it, it goes off the market or it's no longer available, whatever. So I have got a collection of displays which seem to have been around for a while and look like they're going to stay. So once I've got that sorted, then I'll just throw that out there. And also the option of just using an ordinary HDMI display if you've got your 65-inch TV with you. But yeah, that's pretty much it. The one thing I noticed, that helicopter drone that crashed on Mars or broke a bit of the rotor, can't fly anymore. Yeah. Did you see the technology there? When NASA uses computers on its spacecraft, it uses a thing called the RAD 750, which is a specially hardened space computer. They cost about $250,000 each, and they weigh about a pound. And and they're really slow and old in a single core, that sort of stuff. These computers are on all the rovers and all the the orbiting things and that. The helicopter was built with off-the-shelf technology. They used a Snapdragon 801 smartphone processor, and the batteries are off-the-shelf 18650 cells, and everything was off the shelf. And you hear about we need these radiation-hardened things because the bit flips and all that sort of stuff. That thing worked perfectly, pretty much perfectly. The batteries sustained the capacity over really cold, things way below the specification for the batteries themselves. The whole damn thing worked on a fraction of the budget that was for everything else. So I'm wondering how much money is being blown on over-engineering, because you might think, well, yeah, it's only because of over-engineering that the rovers have lasted much longer than their designated timeframes. But the helicopter did the same thing with off-the-shelf tech.
And for a much harder outcome, much more tricky thing than a rover, because a rover when it's sat there is it's just a box on wheels.
And the second one now is it the moons of Uranus or Neptune or somewhere, which has got an atmosphere that's denser than Earth, so they're going to do a proper multi-rotor, send it there.
Wow.
I'm disappointed, Bruce, that you said you couldn't do it because it was illegal. I thought you were this renegade that just said...
No, I would never break the rules when you're looking. I didn't show you what's in here. I just told you.
That spark gap transmitter won't get built at this rate. No.
The microwave ovens laying open on the airfield. Yeah.
One last thing.
Here we go.
Well, you're lying.
Whether it's rumor or nonsense, but Kevin Finister was suggesting that there is a rumor of a DJI robot dog with integrated Ronin thing going on. So dog camera. So I'd be interested.
He'd know. People would tell him he is the dog king, isn't he? So yeah
that'll send stuff back to China, eh?
And sit in their house and do it quietly. And then the iRobot people not getting their investment was very interesting as well, wasn't it? That was another robotic story that's happened this week.
Yes.
The Roomba, iRobot people,
But Elon's put a chip in someone's head, so it's all good.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yes, he has.
That's an interesting one, because I think he'd volunteer for that because apparently when they
That's
put the
exactly
chip
what I
in the
thought.
monkeys, one of the monkeys went mad and ate off its own fingers. So
As you
you'd be
do.
like- so I'd be like, I want a lot of money if one of those chips is going.
But that's just Saturday night in Lincolnshire, isn't it, Mark?
It is, especially
Yeah.
for friends.
Yeah, I thought it was. Yeah, I thought it was. Right, we are talking nonsense. Stay you, wherever you are in the world, look after yourselves. We'll see you again. 2100 G and T. I'm going to say G and T next week. And be careful out there, whatever you're doing. Be safe. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.